Hi, my name is Gracie and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make this tank top pattern, the Tata Twist Tank. You can buy this sewing pattern on my website graciesteele.com and I will put a link below as well as information about the sizing. This sewing pattern comes in a PDF and it is aimed at confident beginners. There's a few little tricks to it, but I'm hopeful that with the instruction booklet and this video, a confident beginner should be able to whiz through it. The pattern includes a A4 and US letter pattern printout. It also includes A0 copy shop files as well as projector files. All of the files are layered, so you can choose to print only your size if you use the computer program Adobe Acrobat. Now, something that I really love about this pattern is that it doesn't require any hemming. So it's a little bit sneaky, fun. You'll learn a few little tricks in here. It is fully lined and I give some little tips in the instruction booklet on how you can increase the bust support, different things like that. If you are looking for inspiration, check out the hashtag Tata Twist Tank on Instagram and you'll see some beautiful tank tops there. Now, you can sew this pattern using either a sewing machine or an overlocker or serger, or a combination of both. In this video, I sew mine using a sewing machine because that's what probably most people have to start off with. Now, included in the pattern file is a stretch calculation tool, and if you are going shopping for fabric specifically for this tank, I would recommend that you print this and take it to help you pick the correct fabric. The Tata Twist Tank is suggested for fabrics with up to 60% stretch. Now, if you're using fabric that is more stretchy than that, you might find that you have to size down, and if you do size down, you might need to lower the arm size, so just be wary of that. Fabrics that have less stretch in them will give more support, and what's really important is the recovery of the fabric. So the recovery is if you stretch it and it goes back to its normal shape easily when you release it, that's good. If you stretch the fabric and it doesn't really go back, that's not very good recovery. So just be mindful of that when you are looking for your fabrics, or you might need to use a combination of two different fabrics to give the support that you need. So I have printed my size alone, and here I am just joining those 3A and 3B pieces back together again, so that helps to save a little bit more paper. Gluing that back on, and now these are the pieces. So we've got the upper front, the lower front, and then the back. And now I have laid them out on the fold to cut. And then this is the second lot of cutting that I am doing. So once they're all cut, we should have two of the upper fronts, one of the lower front, and one of the back. Things that are going to be really helpful with the sewing machine is a walking foot. So that's what this is here. It helps to feed the knit fabric through better. Some people like to use clips. I like to use pins. We've got thread, a stretch needle, and some cute little tags to go in, as well as my unpicker. So I'm going to start by putting one of my tags in, and this isn't in the instructions, but I thought it would be handy to know where to put it or when to put it in. So at the very first step, just in that center back there, because there's no real seams for it to go into, you kind of just got to stitch it straight in on top there. So I've just eyeballed this here and I'm stitching that all down in place. And I always finish my tags with a lock stitch, so see if your machine can do that, because it's pretty handy for things like this instead of doing a back stitch. So there are my tags all in, and now I'm going to put that back piece over to the side. I've got one of my upper fronts and it is laid right sides up, and now I'm going to put the other upper front on top of it so that they are right sides together. And I'm going to pin along the neckline as well as the arm opening. Now it is a little bit tricky knowing which is the right and wrong sides here, but in this instance it doesn't really matter. I'm also pinning along the lower edge between those two notches, and this is where we're going to sew. So we're going to use a lightning bolt stitch to sew where all of those pins are. Now if your machine doesn't have a lightning stitch, you're going to want to use a zigzag, and this is really important to allow your fabric and your garment to stretch when you wear it. If you just use a straight stitch, you'll probably tear the seams or they'll pop and it won't be great. If you want to, you can add some elastic into the neckline here, and that will give a little bit more support. So now I am turning my upper front right sides out, and I'm just going to pin along the lower edges. If you've got a fabric like a jersey that rolls a lot, it can be helpful to baste these together now as well. So I'm just turning everything out, and that looks good now, and I'm popping that over to the side, and now we will do the similar for the back. So I've got it right sides up, and I'm folding it over at that hemline so that it is right sides together. And with this one I will have a main and a lining, and obviously the lining is the one that has the tag on it. So again, we're going to sew along the arm, along the back neck, and then along the other arm, and we'll pop that over to the side again. Now I'm taking my upper front and my lower front, and we're going to attach these two together. So first up, we've got to make sure that we've made our twist, always important not to forget that, and then we are going to put it right sides together with one of the edges of the lower front. So right now we will be pinning 3 layers of fabric together, and you don't want to be stretching anything here, just lay them gently and pin them together. You won't be pinning anything in the center here because you've got the twist there and there's nothing to pin. Now I'm moving the shoulder straps out of the way and folding up the other lower front edge. So this is sort of like a little bit of a burrito that we're making. If you've never done a burrito in sewing, this is a cool way to make a sort of hidden seam, I suppose. And I'm repinning along all of the same spots, matching everything up again. And now we are going to close that gap there. So in this center spot here, there's only the 2 layers of that lower front, and now we have to sew along this length. So again, using a lightning bolt or a zigzag, that's all sewn, and we will turn it out and check that we've caught the corners of this twist. If you didn't quite catch them and you've got some sort of raw edges hanging out, just turn it back inside out and re-sew it as you need. But this one here is looking pretty good. This seam is definitely easier to do on a sewing machine. I've just given it a good press and it's all sitting nice and flat now. When you do press knits, you want to be pressing with high steam. So here I'm working out, do I have a main or a inner and a lining? And we've got the front still right sides out and the back is inside out. So pretty much we are sliding the front into the back so that they are then right sides together, and we're sandwiching it all together. So you've got to reach down into the the back straps down to pull the front straps up and match up all of the edges. Be really careful not to twist anything here, or actually if you want, it would be kind of cute to have some twists in those straps, but you want it to be intentional and not an accident. So I've opened up the corners of these seams here to try and help them to sit a little bit flatter. It's just a bit of an experiment that I'm doing. I think it works, but also meh. I don't know if I'm fully convinced that it's my favorite technique just yet. Anyway, so here I am again matching the corners, and again it's really important to not stretch anything to match it together, otherwise you'll end up with warped seams. So everything should just fit neatly in together as long as you've cut it all correctly. So now using a straight stitch, we are going to sew along the side seams and the shoulder seams. So this can be a little bit tricky to feed through to start, and I like to pull at the thread tails to help to feed it through. So that's what my hand's doing out the back there. It's holding that thread tail, trying to guide it through the machine instead of having it eat the fabric, so to speak. So that one got a little bit stuck there, but away we go. And everything has been sewn, and now we need to take our unpicker and make a little opening here. So I would recommend doing at least an inch size. I didn't do mine quite big enough here, and you'll see what happens as a result of that. But once you've made a opening, you're going to reach into it and then turn your garment right side out. And this is always the funniest thing, I think. It's kind of like the birthing of your garment. This took a really long time because I didn't make a large enough opening, and it actually sort of stretched out the fabric at that hole. So learn from me, do a slightly larger opening than what you think you might need. So here we are, we're nearly there. I'm just slowly tugging at it, trying to feed it all through. And then all of a sudden it just turns out and it's like, here we go. So making sure that everything is all matched. I didn't accidentally twist anything. Here she is, just about done. Again, checking those seams. You can give her another press now using some steam, and I would recommend to try it on. So make sure that you can move and that you're comfortable. If you want to take it in, now is the time to do it. So you would turn it back in through that hole and make whatever adjustments that you want, and then all we have to do is close up that seam. What do you think? Oh, look, she's cute backwards too. I love it like this. So to close the opening, I'm showing you here how to do it with a hand sewing needle, and we're going to be using a slip stitch or a ladder stitch. So using a single piece of thread, I'm poking the needle up through the seam, and then we're sort of going to zigzag between each side. So we poke the needle in through the edge, and you can see what I mean by that opening wasn't big enough, and I've really sort of stretched and warped this here, but we pop it through on one side and then we walk it over to the other side, and hopefully you can sort of see this ladder zigzag thing. And this is probably one of my favorite hand sewing methods. I just think it's like magic. It's so cool to do. So as we tighten that, you can see that hole closing there, which is really neat. If you can't be bothered to do this, you can just edge stitch it on your sewing machine. It's at the back sort of corner of your arm, so nobody's really going to see it anyway, but I think that this is the nicest, neatest method to do. So stitching all the way along the end there. I had a little bit of a loose thread there, but it's gone now. And once I get to the end, I'm going to just tie it off in a little knot. I don't want to pull this too tight because we don't want to create unnecessary puckering. And instead of cutting that thread there, I like to send my needle back in through like a chunky bit in a seam and back out again, and then I'll trim the tail here. So that is snipped, and that's what it looks like after I've done my ladder stitch. And then I gave it a press, and honestly I think it looks pretty a-okay. So there we have it. That is your Tata Twist Tank. What I love about this tank top is the endless opportunities to hack it. I have seen people hack it to make a little knot in the front center, which is really cute, or to crop it into a little swim top, even to extend it into a dress. It's possible to add sleeves on. Do what you want with it, have fun. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it helped you to sew a beautiful Tata Twist Tank. Please tag me if you make this tank top. I cannot wait to see. I'm sure it looks absolutely beautiful. And if you've got any questions, feel free to drop them down below or slide into my DMs on Instagram at @bygraciesteele.